Welcome, everybody, to the Fanmouth Daily Fantasy Baseball Breakdown for Wednesday, June the 11th. I'm Joe Marsh, joined today by Jeff Collins. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, what's up, Joe?
And with us again is Dave Del Grande. How you doing, Dave?
No homers last night. I feel like I got to come out swinging tonight.
All right, let's get to it. So we got some good stuff for you today. Big slate of games. We're going to go through each position, tell you who we like, do some lineup building, give some of our advice. And we start always at pitcher. Now there's some real heavyweights going tonight. You've got Tanaka, you've got Darvish, and you've got Cueto. For me, I would rank them in that order. Very slight edge for Tanaka over Darvish, with Cueto in third. You look at Tanaka, 2.02 ERA this year, 2.18 batting average against, 9.78 Ks per nine, and he's facing Seattle. Not a very good offense, especially at home. They're hitting 219 at home. They hit 237 against righties. And, I mean, obviously, Tanaka's been awesome this year. Hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start this season. He has a good shot to post a good strikeout total against Seattle. They're 12th in the league in strikeouts. And it's a good park for pitchers. Obviously, the Marlins do strike out a lot, so I think Darvish could be good as well. I think those guys are sort of 1 and 1A, but those are both great plays. Now, to pair with them, I don't think you can start 2 of those 3. That's going to just won't leave you with enough money for your offense unless you've got some really good low-end players. I would look to a guy like Cole Hamels to pair with him. Pretty much went over all the reasons to go against San Diego yesterday, and the same is true today. I mean, Hamels is a bit of a better pitcher than Burnett. San Diego's equally bad against lefties and righties. They're just not hitting right now. There's nobody on this team that's doing anything. They had 5 hits last night, scored a couple runs. Even that was a pretty good performance for them. I don't see them doing even that tonight. You want to go really low, to Dave's neighborhood. You can look at Jake DeGrom. Now, he is facing Milwaukee. However, he's got a 1.83 ERA at home and is allowing a 170 batting average to right-handers, which the Milwaukee lineup is always chock full of right-handed batters. So I feel like he can do some damage against them. Let these guys in. Jeff, our resident pitching guru, what do you think?
Uh, the top price guys, I mean the obvious guys that we're looking at, Tanaka, Darvish, and Cueto that you've talked about. I'm not so high on Cueto. I see that on FanMouth you can get a little bit of a discount. Lumping those 3 together, putting them on the same tier. Cueto is priced significantly lower, but I think he's going to get rocked today. So I'm not interested in him. He was never really on my radar. And I think to spend up on a Tanaka and Darvish is just not what I'm going to do. I think both matchups are good, but you're spending over 20K for each of those guys, and that really cripples your lineup. Trying to choose one above the other, both have great matchups. I would probably go with Tanaka over Darvish because of the park, number one, and then Seattle just does not impress me at all. What I'm going to do, though, is save some money. I always look at whoever San Diego is facing. And when you're facing Cole Hamels, I think that's a pretty solid thing. Cole Hamels has done pretty well in his last 6 starts. He has 7+ innings. He's getting some wins, getting some strikeouts. I think it's a really good spot for him. Like I said, it doesn't matter who was facing San Diego. I was going to be looking, considering them anyway. But it's just a bonus that it's actually a good pitcher facing them. So that would be one guy I'm looking at, and then I said that I think the Dodgers are going to kill Cincinnati today, so Ryu is another guy that I'd look at. He pitched well against Cincinnati earlier this year. He pitched well at Coors Field, which not many opposing pitchers do. He only gave up 2 runs there, so that would definitely be a guy that I'm looking at. Even with Joey Votto back in the lineup, that doesn't do enough for Cincinnati's offense. I think Ryu's in a really good spot.
All right, Dave, help us out. What do you think?
Well, I hate to say it, but I do not like the look of my neighborhood today. The low price guys, I just don't see it today. They're not good. I mean, DeGrom, I think, is the best of the low price plays, but I'm not sure I want to stoop to that level. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far, including Jeff's point on Cueto. I have no interest in Cueto today. I think I would put Darvish slightly ahead of Tanaka for 2 reasons. Number one is that his price is slightly lower, not a lot lower, but slightly lower. And secondly, the Marlins have been striking out right and left lately, and Darvish, has the most strikeouts, I believe, of all the pitchers going today. So I like the matchup of high strikeouts against a team that strikes out a lot. So he'd be the guy I would spend my big money on. I was looking at 3 pitchers in the mid-price range, or I thought would be in the mid-price range, to pair with him, or maybe even pick 2 of them. But their prices came up too high. I mean, I like Rourke tonight. His price is too high. I like Hamill of the Cubs tonight. His price is way too high. And I like Hamels of Philadelphia. He's the lowest price of those 3. He's probably the best of those 3. You guys have detailed why that's the case. He's probably my #1 choice, all things considered, tonight. So fortunately, I don't see a lot of high-priced hitters tonight that I'm interested in. So I'm going to be going against my book and spending a lot of money on pitchers. I do think that there are 2 or 3 that are worth the high prices.
Yeah, I'm with you a bit there, Dave. I have found some good values on the infield and the outfield, so I think I will go for a Tanaka and maybe a Hamels, and I think there's other spots where you can save, and be able to still build a solid lineup. And jumping right into that, if I can start off at catcher, would be my boy Chris Jimenez. I think that's a great spot to say right off the bat. He's typically in the lineup when Darvish is pitching. He's practically free, as Dave would like to say. He's hitting .382 against righties, and he's facing Turner, who's given up a .342 batting average to righties. So I think he's a great play tonight. There's going to be a few Rangers that I like. A few Rangers right-handed hitters I think are solid plays tonight, but that's a great place to save money right off the bat. Jeff, what do you think behind the plate?
I'll be boring and take the same guy I took yesterday, Evan Gattis, going against the new pitcher the Rockies have going. For the same reasons as yesterday. It's Coors Field. It's a guy that absolutely crushes the ball. And, we saw that yesterday with, I think Atlanta put up 7 runs in the first inning, something like that. And that pace didn't slow down that much the rest of the way. They ended up putting up a ton of runs at Colorado. And Gattis was one of the guys that hit a home run. And I think this is another chance for him to get another home run.
Yeah, a little info on Matzik. He's had a 4-something ERA in AAA this year. He's got a bit some control problems. He's got good stuff, but he's been known to be rocky in some outings. He's good against lefties, pretty bad against righties. So I think a lot of the Braves right-handed hitters are in play tonight.
He's been known to be rocky. Was that a pun?
Ooh, I'm on Dave's page now. Dave, what do you think behind the plate before
I agree with, here I go again. You put me last in the line, I'm going to agree with everything you guys say. I'm big fans of both of you.
Oh, thank you.
I did not play, I was not as high on Gattis yesterday as you guys were. I was wrong about that. I went up against him in 2 different competitions yesterday and lost them both almost single-handedly because of him. And I've got the same report on Matzik that, the Joe that you've talked about. Supposedly he's really strong on lefties and, gives up high power to right-handed hitters. I'm going to be looking to play my Braves right-handers today. Gattis coming off a big game. It looks like a real good matchup for him. I think he's a standout catcher tonight.
Yeah, I found myself with some extra money in my lineup yesterday at the last minute, switched Lucroy over to Gattis. And was grateful for that. That was a good call by Jeff yesterday. Dave, why don't you kick us off at first base so there's something there for you to talk about.
There we go. I think the play of the day today is at first base. He's going to be my home run pick of the day. No, not one of the real high-priced guys. I'm talking about Rizzo of the Cubs. I think that, Compton's pitching today for Pittsburgh. He's pitched once at home and actually pitched halfway decent in that game. His other games have not been as good. Got a 300-plus batting average against righties and lefties. 350, small sample size, but 350 against left-handed hitters. Rizzo is absolutely on fire, had a monster game last night. He's been hitting homers lately. It's a great matchup. Him lefty against Compton. Pittsburgh Park gives up a lot of homers. Rizzo, to me, is a standout play at first base at a really nice price.
Jeff?
I love Rizzo, and I feel the same way you do. My top play is at first base. It's also my home run pick, and it's Miguel Cabrera going against John Danks. John Danks gives up a ton of home runs, and Miguel Cabrera is one of the most powerful guys in the league. So I would prefer going that direction. More expensive, of course, and I would not try to convince someone to stay away from Rizzo for the reasons Dave mentioned. Right now, Rizzo is a great guy to have. He hit a home run off of a lefty yesterday in Lariano, so he's hitting righties and lefties well, ton of power. But the direction I would go would be Cabrera.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dave, on Rizzo. If you're looking for a lower price option, you could always go with Singleton. He's been hitting well so far. He's got 2 home runs through his first 8 games. I think the Astros have a pretty good matchup against McCarthy. He's got a 329 batting average allowed to lefties. So I think Singleton, if you want to save some money, is a good play as well. Over at second base, Dave, start us off again.
Well, I think there are some decent low-price options at second base. A guy who I went with a lot earlier this year, Grant Green of the Angels remains a very low-price guy, a righty hitter against Malone tonight. If you need to stoop to that level, I probably won't go quite that low because there's a guy higher up the list who's been red hot and gets a good matchup tonight, and that's Murphy of the Mets. Facing Peralta. Peralta gives up a lot of power to left-handed hitters. Murphy's been, as I said, been hitting really well. He's kind of a mid-price guy, and he's going to be my pick at second base tonight.
All right, Jeff?
Well, I would like to pick on John Danks again, please. I think Ian Kinsler's a good way to go. You look at the BVP for John Danks against these Tigers, and the right-handed bats for the Tigers are really good options today. And I think that Miguel Cabrera and Ian Kinsler, yes, they're going to take up a ton of your cap, but I'm taking a little more of the Dave approach today and saving on pitchers, whereas I think you guys are going to be spending more than I will. So I think my lineup is going to be pretty solid. I can afford probably at least 4 really big names, and then maybe a couple mid-level guys as well. But what my lineup is going to be built around are these right-handed Detroit bats against John Danks, the lefty, who gives up a high rate of home runs.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was sort of what I talked about yesterday before that game had been rained out. I believe it's Kinsler, Austin Jackson, Torrey Hunter all have great numbers against John Danks. I think, yeah, stacking Tigers righties is a great way to go. The other way I would go, Jose Altuve. For some reason, I like the Astros today. I think he's going to have a good shot to run. Obviously, you got Miguel Montero behind the plate, 3rd worst percentage of runners caught, and it's harder with McCarthy. McCarthy's a very tall pitcher. He's got a long delivery. Montero's only caught 1 out of 10 runners with McCarthy on the mound. So if Altuve can get on, I think he's got a great chance to run tonight. And then over at third base, I'll give you my play of the day is Adrian Beltre, my home run pick as well. He's hitting .429 with 3 home runs in June. He's hitting .322 against righties. 7 of his 8 home runs have come off of righties this year. And he's facing Turner, who I talked about earlier, not good against right-handers, giving up a .342 batting average. I like getting Rangers right-handers in there, and I like Beltre a lot today. That'll be my play of the day. Jeffrey, what do you think?
For what? For third base?
Third base.
I think Brock Holt, even though I think he's facing a lefty today, they still bat him leadoff against lefties. And for the price that he's at, I think he's a good option. I talked a lot yesterday about how you can find these leadoff hitters that get you plenty of production for their price, because most of these leadoff hitters that I can find that I like are bottom of the barrel. Brock Holt, 5,100. This should be a pretty high-scoring game, I would think, and I think that getting a leadoff hitter in a game that you project to be high-scoring usually works out well.
Yeah, Holt's actually been better against left-handers than right-handers this year. He's hitting .380 against lefties, so I think that's a very solid play.
That might regress a little bit, but yeah, he's still a solid option.
Yeah. Dave?
Well, the 2 matchups that I want to attack tonight, I already mentioned one, so the Cubs against Compton, and Joe, you just mentioned the second one, the Rangers against Turner. Both have good options here at third base. I mean, Valbuena's been hitting well. He's a lefty hitter going up against Compton. I like that. Beltre for a little more money. You get his power. You get a good matchup there. But I'm going to go down the list a little farther and give you Johnson today of the Braves. Again, another Braves right-handed hitter, a cheap option against the rookie left-hander tonight for Colorado. We saw this, and Jeff made a very good point yesterday about the Rockies games, is that if you get bothered by the fact that the first game of Rockies home series are low scoring, then you've really missed an opportunity to cash in. We saw the Arizona series last week where every game seemed to have between 15 and 20 runs. We had one of those games last night with the Braves and Rockies, even though the Monday night opener was very low scoring. I expect that trend to continue. I expect there to be a lot of runs scored in this game tonight, especially from Atlanta. And so I'm going to ride that and get 2 or 3 of Atlanta's right-handed bats in there. Johnson is a very nice, cheap option.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I have Johnson as my number 2 third baseman behind Beltre, but Beltre is just a real standout play for me today. What do you think at shortstop, Dave?
Well, I'm not going with Tulowitzki today, and that's probably the shocker of the day, other than the fact that I'm not going with a lightweight pitcher either. So maybe I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. But here we go again. Similar to third base, you've got Castro of the Cubs, who I think is a decent option against Pittsburgh tonight. But the hottest hitting of all the Braves lately has been Simmons. And here we go again, a good matchup against in a game that I think is going to be high scoring. A low price guy, a relatively low price guy, and I'm the one who's spending a lot on pitching today, so I got to look to save here, and I have at some of these infield positions. Here's another one where I don't think I'm giving up that much in production and still getting a guy at a low price. So I'm going to go with Simmons today of the Braves at shortstop.
All right, yeah, I like that. Dave's building himself a nice, healthy Braves stack. Now, the thing about shortstop tonight is you have Reyes going in the daytime, then you have Tulowitzki against Teheran, and Ramirez against Cueto. So the top 3 options are looking a little dicey, so I think you do need to look a little farther down the list. Jeff, what did you come up with at shortstop?
Well, Tulo against Tehran. Tehran he's actually given up 10 home runs this year, so you'd expect that rate to go up at Coors Field. I'm not as worried about Tulo in that sense. What concerns me about Tulo is his lack of protection in the lineup now with Carlos Gonzalez gone. You're seeing a lot of blowout games, so we're not seeing teams pitch around Tulowitzki. But in a close game, I can see teams starting to pitch around Tulowitzki, especially at Coors Field. And I don't know. You would hope that this game's going to be more competitive than the last couple, but Tulowitzki's not on my radar for that reason, lack of protection in the lineup. I do think Simmons is a pretty good option. But for me, the guy I'm looking most at is Xander Bogaerts facing a lefty. His lefty-righty splits are very good against lefties, are very geared towards lefties. He's got 3 home runs and 70 at-bats versus lefties versus 2 home runs and 163 at-bats against right-handers. His batting average is higher, too. He can get a stolen base or 2. And his price really justifies him being in your lineup when he's facing a lefty. I think he's not necessarily, a must-play, but definitely a very solid option when he's in the 7,000s and facing a lefty.
All right, and Dave, you touched on Castro a bit. That's a guy who I like as well. Facing Compton, who has been struggling, giving up a .315 batting average to righties in a good hitter's park. You look at Castro, all 8 of his home runs this year have come against right-handed pitching. I think he gives you a decent shot at a home run tonight. And then to the outfield. Now, the guy that I'll start off with, obviously, he's listed Justin Upton. He's listed as day-to-day. He left yesterday, but they're saying there is a chance he may play today. I had to mention him because it's such a standout play. Obviously, there still is a chance he won't play. Check the lineups. But if he's in, I think you have to start him. We talked about Matzik, not good against right-handers. And then you look at Upton's stats against lefties. 429, 6 home runs and 35 at-bats, and playing in Colorado. That says to me you absolutely have to play him if he's in the lineup. I think Rios, too, I like that. Another Texas right-hander that I want. He's hitting .307 against righties. He's a very streaky hitter and a guy who's in the middle of a hot streak right now. 13 hits over his last 7 games. And another hot guy is Dexter Fowler. You look his last 8 games, 15 hits and 29 at bats, and on top of that, 7 walks. So he's gotten on base 22 times, scored 8 runs. Again, that's a few Astros for me, not a team I usually like to have. But against Brandon McCarthy, I think he's a great play as well. Dave, what do you got in the outfield?
I like some of the guys you mentioned there. I do think that having at least one of the Astros outfielders is a good idea, whether it's Springer, who's a much higher price guy, or like you said, Fowler, who's been red hot. I actually prefer Fowler because of the price. I think Rios is a very good play tonight in the outfield. I think that Trout, to me, is the standout play among the heavyweight outfielders. I'm going to be shocked if Upton plays tonight. I mean, they pulled him in the first inning last night. Never a good sign. And that's why I think Trout, to me, if you're going to spend big money on one outfield tonight, you're going to want him against the left-handed pitcher. I do see some. I like Granderson. Who's been hitting well. Lefty hitter against Peralta, who I mentioned before, gives up a lot of power. Going back to my Cubs, I'll take a shot with Shearholtz tonight. A power hitting lefty, kind of like Rizzo, up against Compton tonight. Get him at a very cheap price and hope to get a cheap home run there. So I do like the mid to lower range options in the outfield tonight, which I'm kind of forced to look at because of the pitchers that I'm using. But if they weren't there, then maybe I'd have to switch my strategy on pitchers. But I think they are there, and so I'm comfortable going with some of these lower priced outfielders and going with the high priced pitchers today.
All right. Yeah, I was just to clarify, I wasn't saying I think Upton will play. I was just saying I need to mention him just in case he's playing. He has to be in your lineup. And I agree with you on Trout. Tommy Milone is one of these guys who loves to pitch at home. He's good at home, but not so great on the road. 5.40 ERA, and Trout's a guy who eats lefties up. So I like that play a lot as well. Jeff, help us out in the outfield.
I would not play Justin Upton even if he was in the lineup because he could be a candidate to be pulled early. Like go out there, give it a shot, and see how it feels. That type of thing. And they have nothing to lose by doing that. So I wouldn't be, big tournaments, okay. But if you're going to be playing someone heads up and you're throwing Justin Upton in your lineup, even if he is in the starting lineup, I don't like it. The direction I would go, as we talked about briefly earlier, was Torrey Hunter and Austin Jackson. The BVP against John Danks is outstanding. Torrey Hunter's batting .326 with 3 home runs. Austin Jackson .385 with 3 home runs. They have around 40 at-bats each. And I talked about liking the right-handed bats against John Danks. I feel like this is going to be a home run fest, and if I can stack that lineup, I'm hoping they're all batting right next to each other in the order, so one guy gets a double, next guy gets a single, next guy gets a home run, and all of a sudden you've got half the points that you need for the day. So those would be the guys I'm looking at mainly. I don't always stack in my my heads-up games, but I think this is a good opportunity to do it. I think that you can get a guy that all of a sudden gets on a run, and though it looks like a good matchup, it ends up killing your team because all of a sudden this pitcher just had a really good game. But I cannot see John Danks doing well today with all the BVP history there and his splits against righty lefties and his home run percentage. So this is going to be one of the rare cases where I'm looking to stack a team in a cash game.
Yeah, for Kinsler, Jackson, and Hunter, I believe they're hitting about 360 combined against Danks. And if you look at the entire Tigers lineup, they're hitting over 300 against Danks. He really has not had much success against them. So those are all solid plays. That wraps up all the positions. We'll go ahead and give you our final words, advice on lineup building. Obviously, I'm going to use a high-priced pitcher, probably Tanaka, pair him with Hamels. I think I'm going to spend a bit. I think there are spots to save the rest of the lineup. Jimenez is a big spot where I think I can save. Cheap catcher. I think he can get a couple hits. Play of the day, Adrian Beltre. Like him a lot against the right-hander. And then in the outfield, like I said, Alex Rios. I'm probably stacking up some Rangers, some Braves, and some Astros today. So Rios, Fowler, I think are good plays. Chris Johnson's a good play. Beltre. Those are the 3 teams that I'm going to be targeting, as well as a few of the Tigers. Dave, final word.
Well, I'm taking the opposite approach that I usually do. What I'm going to do today is I'm I'm going to try something that I don't think a lot of people are going to do. I'm going to try to pitch both Darvish and Tanaka, and throw Trout into the lineup and see what's left. I mean, at least I'm going to experiment with it, because other than those three, I'm looking at Cubs that I like, Astros that I like, Mets that I like, and lower-priced Braves that I like. So it's not like, I have a feeling I can mix and match among those four teams, a couple guys here and there, and maybe fit under the cap, even using those three real heavyweights. If that's not possible, then I'll drop probably Tanaka and drop down to Hamels and see where that gets me. I'm pretty sure I'd be able to do that. But I think a lot of people are going to go into tonight thinking, wow, these two heavyweight pitchers are both really good, but I can't play them both. I think you can give yourself an advantage tonight by playing them both if you're comfortable with the lineup you're left with. I would at least take a look at it, which is what I'm going to do, and see if it works for you.
I had given some thought to that, to starting those guys, because I think there are some very good low-end plays around the league today, seeing if that works out. Jeff, final word.
Man, I'm going the opposite way. All the guys I've talked about, it feels like I'm talking about too many expensive guys, too many expensive players, because I'm usually mentioning the sleepers and everything, trying to be realistic about being able to roster a team as opposed to just giving you the best guys at each position. But every guy I've talked about, you can fit into your lineup with the two pitchers that I said that I'm using. I'm using Cole Hamels and Ryu today. Yesterday I talked about how it's gonna come down to the last second to figure out who I'm gonna pitch. But today I have pretty clear direction on which way I'm going, weather permitting. So yeah, and all the hitters I talked about, you can put them all in your lineup. They'll all fit. So I really like the way everything shapes up today. Usually you get to your last couple roster spots and the guys on your list aren't able to fit in, and you have to kind of tweak some stuff. But for me, it was pretty straightforward. I got all the guys that I wanted in, and then I had like 8,500 left in my utility spot, and I was able to slot in another guy that I liked. So I really like the way things shape up today.
All right, that wraps us up for today. We will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at PlayFanmouth or check our rankings at blog.fanmouth.com. Thank you very much.